again at Tony's Camo and Airgun Centre, continuing our videos on airguns and airgun hunting and a few other things. So I didn't really expect to do these videos this time last year, and we had the chance to do a couple last year and they've been really successful. So hopefully you're enjoying these videos. Let us know in the comments below if you want us to make more, if you've got any suggestions, or you just have got any questions. Talking about questions, we had a few comments on the scope zeroing video that we did last year, October last year.
Back into last year. Yeah.
Which was about not just how to zero the scope, but how to choose a scope, what you're looking for in a scope. Do I need to spend £50 at one end? Do I need to spend £5,000 at the other end?
That's it, absolutely.
So if somebody comes into the shop with that question and say, talk to me about scopes, then what do you say?
It's all fairly basic, to be honest. You're firstly given the choice of what do the numbers mean. Mm-hmm. So if I were to say to somebody, a complete newbie, that they need a 3 to 9 by 40, they would look at me like I'm slightly insane and start scratching their head. So what do the numbers mean? 3 to 9 by 40, or 41650, or 62450, whatever it is. What do the numbers basically mean? Well, the first two numbers are basically your zoom. So 3 to 9, as in the case of this little PAO scope, 3 to 9 is your zoom range in times magnification. So it's quite simply a rotary adjuster at the back that allows you to zoom in and out of the scope. So that's your first two numbers, 3 to 9.
Okay.
40. Well, 40 is your internal diameter in millimetres, not external, internal. Fairly basic scope, the 3 to 9 by 40 is probably the UK's most popular scope for a hunter, because it's not excessively complicated. It is to a degree point and press. Once you've got it set up and you know where your pellets are going, and if you have a Dot Reticle, which is your crosshair with lots of little reference points dotted onto it, you'll know at whatever given range where your pellet's going to fall within that reticle, and away you go. Practice, 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 but away you go.
So you can start doing things like hold under, hold over,
that's
to different ranges.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's pretty much what you say. As you say, you'll see on most rifles in the UK.
Yeah, 3 to 9 by 40 is probably the most popular size of scope within the UK.
Okay, so if you wanted to push one of those numbers up a little bit, where would you go?
Yeah. I mean, you can go to the 41650. This is a 41650. So the 50, obviously, it's a slightly larger objective, so 10 millimeters more internally. That's going to allow more light into the scope itself. The 4 to 16 gives you a greater zoom range, and you also have, in the case of this one, a IR, which is illuminated reticle, not infrared. So illuminated ret. What that will basically do is allow you in 1, 2 or 3 colours to illuminate the crosshairs separately from anything else. It's not projecting light out of the end of the scope, it is purely illuminating the crosshair. So you might ask, why do you want to do that? Basically, if you imagine yourself in a situation where you're hunting or target work, where you're going from a light situation to dark or pure dark, so you'll have your target, rabbit, metal target, whatever it is you're shooting at, dark in a dark wooded area or at night with a dark crosshair inside your scope. That's 3 dark things you're trying to line up. Now what you can do as illuminated ret is light up the crosshair itself, which then allows you to at least reduce one of those dark things and give you a better chance of hitting the target where you need to. So that's the basic idea with the IR. There is one other thing that can be quite important in a scope, which is focus. Now the first 2 scopes we've looked at are factory fixed parallax or focus. They're fixed at 35 yards, most are fixed at 100 yards. Air rifles don't shoot at 100 yards. So the one option you do get is the AO or adjustable objective. This is another 3 to 9 by 40. You'll notice it's slightly bigger at the front end here, which is your fine focus, allowing you to use any zoom at any given range.
Okay. So it's moving the optics at both ends, basically.
Yeah, basically.
So that's a good example there of what I want to go on to next. Really, where you've got a 3 to 9 by 40 scope there and a 3 to 9 by 40 scope there.
Yeah.
But there's a jump up in price, I'm guessing, from one to the other.
Yeah. Obviously, the AO scope is slightly more involved. There's slightly more going on inside. There's more glass inside. Your average price for a 3 to 9 by 40 can be £40–45, something like that, which is going to get you a good beginner's scope stroke hunting scope. Okay, something with AO on it like that, which to be honest at a point becomes indispensable once you get good at shooting. That's going to cost you £60–70 onwards.
Okay, so it's an expensive part of the overall setup, but it's possibly the one of the few things that is going to make the biggest difference between success and failure, between hitting that target and not.
Yeah. There's a short statement I've heard that says that if you had a BMW, you wouldn't put retreads on it. It all helps performance. So you wouldn't buy a nice big expensive air rifle and put a £40 scope on it, because the rifle is capable of doing far better.
And it's also something that you've got to set it up properly. It's not where it's a sling goes on the rifle, it either fits or it doesn't, but it's comfortable to wear or not.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it has to be right.
It's got to be right. Yeah, that's right. It's got to be right. The air, once you've got a scope on it, if the telescopic sight is faulty, not good, it isn't clear, then you might as well simply not use it, because you're not going to hit what you're shooting at.
Yeah, it's so. What about not using a scope? What about just using the iron sights?
Using iron sights, yeah, absolutely. You are limited by, obviously, trajectory of the pellet leaving the barrel, so the pellet will drop as it leaves the barrel. Obviously, with open sights, you have a pin at the front and a V at the back, which you're lining up. There will be a point where the pellet will drop below where you're looking on the pin sight at the front, so at that point it becomes useless. That range is about 25 yards.
Okay.
So if you're shooting 25 yards and less, or 20 yards and less, I would be quite happy to use open sights if the rifle I was using had that option.
And I suppose it's part of the changing trends, but also how inexpensive scopes have become relatively.
Yeah.
But a lot of these rifles don't seem to have iron sights.
They don't have the option of using field sights. No open sights option. Bear in mind, when you and I were both younger, that many years ago. So some of these scopes were potentially as expensive as the rifle itself. Yeah. So going out and buying a nice Virak rifle, for example, and then putting a nice scope on it could be a reasonable expenditure. So I personally, going back through the 70s and 80s, would have bought a nice rifle and then saved up a little bit more and then put a nice scope on it.
A lot of these rifles seem to come bundled with a scope now. It seems to be that they'll come with a lower end 3 to 9 by 40 as part of the deal, and then you can go up from that.
And then you go up from that. Yeah, that's right.
Which for some people might be the scope they use forever, and for some people it might be the scope they take off and they replace it with a scope they already had. And when they come to sell that rifle again,
they
switcheroo
them back. Yeah, absolutely. See plenty of that.
There's the benefits of having a scope, and once you've worked out zeroing, which you still have to do with field sights anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's your shooting with an air rifle is just going to become a lot more accurate. It's going to become a lot more consistent with the scope, isn't it?
You're certainly capable of putting a string of pellets within the same ragged pellet hole with a decent rifle using a telescopic sight. It's not quite so easy. Not impossible, but not quite so easy with open sights to do that sort of grouping.
So if somebody was to come into the shop with a bare rifle without a scope to buy a scope from you, could you help them set it up? Is that something that they need help with, or it's worth getting some help with?
It's worth getting help if it's your first rifle, most definitely. The last thing you want to do is drop your scope onto your rifle and have it in an uncomfortable position where you feel yourself having to crane your neck to do it. A lot of people do it. They think it's just bolted on and away we go, and then they'll move their head position to use the scope correctly. It's far better to have the rifle and scope combination set up to suit you as the individual shooter. We can certainly help with that. That is something we can not necessarily do for people, but certainly help them do and go on there. Obviously, everybody's ever so slightly different. Their head position will be different. Their eyes are certainly different than other people's. So the actual setting the scope up is something that is far better done yourself, but we can certainly give some guidance.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've pretty much covered everything we need to there. We've got different ranges of scopes here. We've gone through what the numbers mean. So you've got zoom at one end and the objective at the other. So the bigger it is, so a 3 to 9 goes from 3 to 9.
Correct.
Zoom,
As easy as that.
And the 40 at the other end of those numbers is the internal diameter of the end of the scope.
That's correct.
And the bigger that number is, the more light it lets in.
Correct.
And the better it is in low light.
Correct.
And if you have IR next to it, it's illuminated reticule.
Yeah, not infrared.
Not infrared.
Not infrared. Illuminated reticule.
Yeah. You can get infrared night vision scopes.
You can, yes.
But
It's a
you're
very
talking
different beast.
you're-
Very different beast. We're
Yeah.
going nowhere near that sort of stuff with these.
Yeah.
It's a different beast altogether.
To be honest, if you're looking at infrared night vision scopes, then you're probably already beyond these videos. Yeah.
Yes, very true.
But you know, we might revisit that again some other time in the future.
Absolutely.
So once again, Tony,
Richard, thank you.
thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
If you have any comments, questions, or just things you would like to feed us back, put them in the comments below. And if you want to come down and visit Tony and see the man himself, then you come along to Tony's Camo and Airgun Centre here on the edge of Chester. The link is in the description below. It's on at the end of the video, and it's on our website as well. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.